Hi, welcome to week one's lecture. Every week we're going to have a lecture video. It's going to be short, but I'm going to go over the reading materials and highlight some of the key points from each week. This week we're going to talk about the podcast as a platform and what platformization it's been using and how it's been working, because it's actually quite unique compared to other data content producers. The second piece is we're going to talk about content. What kind of content do you expect on a podcast, and how does that differ from other media? And then the third is diversity in podcast. So let's start first with platformization. So it's interesting, podcasts actually are quite different than what we're used to with other platform services. So when you think of a Netflix, we all know that the content is not only there, but we can scroll through, right? Like, how many times have you scrolled through show after show, and you're looking by genre, and you're just trying to find that Netflix show that will like hook you and that you can binge watch over the weekend. So not only are they storing the content, but they're actually doing the discovery phase too, right, of discovering the content. And then we click play and we consume the content. So they're really performing three functions. When podcasting first came onto the scene, it was really RS feeds that were scattered throughout the internet. So not only did you have to discover the podcast, you have to find it, you have to find this RSS feed, and then you have to download it or find a way to consume it. So those two functions were not together, right? There wasn't one place to find everything. You couldn't go into a podcasting section of a platform and find a variety of podcasts. So that meant you had to be really technically savvy in order to find podcasts you want to listen to. So you had to be really a dedicated listener, which meant the audience was quite small. But then in 2005, Apple introduced iTunes 4.9, and that included podcasting section. So this really started to expand podcasting audiences, because now you could go in similar to like a Netflix. You could search by genre. You could start to find the podcast that interests you, and there was all these podcasts. So they even had things that may have not been producing. They were taking all the RSS feeds and putting them in. So they were actually showing things that may not even been recent. So even if the podcast had not done an episode in the recent years. So you could really find anything you wanted to find. It was like going to a giant library of podcasts. And actually, since then, lots of discovery platforms have popped up. Spotify has gotten on the scene. There's been different standalone sort of podcasting apps as well. But what really, really, really exploded the audience was in 2014, Apple added the podcasting app to the iPhone. And so when they did that, that meant that maybe if you went into the iTunes, you weren't really looking for podcasts, you didn't think about podcasts. But now when you get an iPhone, it was automatically loaded there. So you already are like top of mind. Oh, a podcast. I didn't even think about that I could listen to a podcast. So we saw a significant increase in audience when that app was added. So what's happening though now is that different companies are getting into podcasting distribution. And what the expectation is, similar to like a Spotify, they're going to start to have, and Spotify does this, some subscription-based podcasting. So what has been free for years through RSS feeds and through these discovery platforms, and really relied on advertising for their revenue, or users or listeners paying or donating, now has turned into a situation where, oh, we can put this behind paywalls and subscription-based models. Podcasters are very good against this, because podcasting has been kind of this like, we can have our own voice. We don't have any restrictions to folks hearing what we have to say. So, but the new kind of direction things are going is this really subscription-based model. Then we talk a little bit about content. Thing about podcasts that are quite different than, especially like an article online, or maybe a quick hit it's TV series. Podcasts really are meant to take up time. They're not meant to be scanned. They're really meant to be set down and listened to. So you have to like commit to a show, and you have to commit to that listening experience. So when we think, the articles talked about this, when we think of when podcasting really got popular, 2014, Apple launches this app, right? And they put the app on the iPhone. And then also Serial launches, which is this 12 series podcast that explores a case of what they're considering someone that was accused of murder that didn't commit murder. But what they do in the podcast is they don't just focus on the story, they take us through the journey of the storytelling. And that was really a change in the way that content was produced. It was kind of a behind the scenes look at here's how we're producing this story, here's the questions we're asking. And it really was a very popular, it was one of the most popular podcasts. And again, that timing of like Apple launching their app in 2014 and then this serial series coming out was just like an explosion, right, for that podcast. So yeah, podcasts really are meant to be a deep dive into a subject. And, you know, there's even a podcast, and I think it was in one of the articles, about where's Richard Simmons. So Richard Simmons has recently disappeared from the media spotlight in the last 5 years. And there was literally this like multi-episode podcast on the disappearance of Richard Simmons. And that's kind of the expectation, is that we're filling these kind of like niche needs of like knowing in a really deep way. So diversity in podcasting. So initially, podcasting was very white. It was very a male, white-centric medium. What they found is with the explosion of popularity, there was Edison Research did a study in 2018, and they actually found in the last 10 years that the breakdown of podcasters has come in line with the general makeup of America. So when you look at the diversity of podcasting and podcasters, you'll see that it really relates to the diversity in America. So it's really cool because it's like an actual picture of the American makeup. And they say that this is an opportunity to get more diverse voices out there, and it's an opportunity for podcasters because there's a huge market of 52 million Americans that they can reach, as well as, you know, that they look like, they sound like, and that they can relate to. So the diversity has really exploded in the last few years, and that's really important, and it's become a really important space for diverse voices to be heard. So this week is just a warm-up to get us to what is podcasting, what does it look like, what's its history, how was it produced, and how is it produced now, what's good content, and then what does the diversity in podcasting look like. So that's this week's readings. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the lecture. I will always keep them pretty short so that, don't take a lot of your time, but it's important that you take a look at them. And if you take a look at the readings and then also do the assignments for the week, they're due by Sunday. Thanks. Have a great day.